Welcome to Duo Chat with Brittany
and Cynthia, where we talk about drama shows
like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, and more.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Cynthia.
And today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 16, titled Somewhere a Clock is Ticking. Air date March 1st, 2005, and the synopsis is...
Nathan is livid after a call from Haley saying she'll be on TV, gets no sympathy from Coach, and drives Step to abuse painkillers, as Lucas soon finds out. And he thinks Karen can get Lucas back now that his PI found out Dan pays expenses for Emily Chambers, aka Jules. Lucas takes Brooke as a date to the wedding, and Brooke's dad gets a new job outside of Tree Hill. So Lucas is narrating while he's like how he was in the pilot, walking down the street, dribbling the basketball and listening to music with earbuds. And then we see Keith outside the church. He's going to get married to Jules when Lucas comes walking up. And it was a coincidence that they're both there. So Lucas tells Keith he's a little early and underdressed for the wedding. And Keith says he's there to make sure everything is okay. And Lucas asks if there's anything he can do to help. And Keith says he's done enough. Everything is perfect.
Oh, poor little Keith.
Yeah. And then at the apartment, Nathan gets a phone call from Haley.
Yeah. So, this is for us, the audience, the first time we're seeing them talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it is annoying because apparently they talked last time and we didn't see it.
Right.
It's just like some things, because for us, it's like, oh my God, it's the first time they're talking, but apparently they've already talked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just frustrating. Like, why couldn't we have seen that?
I guess because Joy was on the tour, so they couldn't film that part.
It's just, I know, but it's just annoying because it's like, oh my God, it's like a shocker. They're talking.
Mm-hmm.
But then, because we forget, they've already talked.
Right.
And so then she says that she's going to be on TV and he's all mad. And like, I don't get this. Like, why is he still acting like this? If they've already talked and she's trying to tell him something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I agree with her that, she's trying to tell him, like, make him a part of it. And, he's just not caring about it.
Mm-hmm. And then Nathan mentions that Keith is getting married. But
apparently he didn't know.
Yeah.
So nobody tells her anything then.
Right. Yeah, I guess not Lucas either. Yeah, but he says that it won't last. And Haley asks, what can she say to make things better because she really wants to. Nathan tells her she can't. That's the part she has to live with. And then we see like a split screen with the two of them to make it look like they're standing next to each other.
No, I just thought it was like two different worlds.
Yeah, that too, probably, yeah.
That's how I took it, as they're just on two different journeys right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is, can they get back together?
Yeah.
But when he said, well, and two, it was kind of like when he said, that's the part you have to live with. It's kind of like, that's like it's over sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what you kind of tell somebody when it's over.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I took it as. Is it over?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it seems like Nathan keeps going back and forth, like, we'll get back together, we won't, so.
I know, each episode is different. It's like, just tell us what you want.
Yeah. And then we go to Peyton's house with Jenny in her crib and Peyton and Jake still in bed kissing. When Jake thinks...
the kid is right. The baby is right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They do until Jake thinks he hears a noise from Jenny being her first word. Yeah.
Do you really think she said something?
No, not the first time she made the noise. No, that's why I said noise, not word. Because he thinks she said dada, but and says this baby's a genius.
Okay. You're a little far-fetched. My baby's a genius?
Right. I mean, how old is she now? Like close to a year, right? Has to be.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, so I guess about that point they do start speaking a little bit, but yeah,
I mean, if she is, isn't she a little small?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I was just,
Usually they hire toddlers that are a little bit older than they should be, but
yeah,
yeah.
for some reason, this one's like still a baby.
Mm-hmm. And then just then Brooke runs in, excited and sounding like Chris when she says Brick Davis has 24 hours, is 24 hours away from being student council president and rich again.
So is this her first time saying her name?
Yeah, maybe the only time, I want to guess, or at least
No, I feel
in
like
the
she says
younger
it in
year.
the future.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, I now remember a moment. Yeah.
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 But I feel like she says it in the future, but
She does, I
now. But I
remember
don't
now.
think in the past we've
Right. Yeah.
seen her or hear her say it.
Right. Yeah.
You said like Chris Keller.
Yeah, because that's what he does.
I'm Chris Keller. Chris
Mhm.
Keller's here. It's like, we get it.
Yeah. So Payne asks if she's talking about marrying Felix to get rich again. And she says no, her dad has this interview with a, company today and he's a good golfer. So, he'll be he'll impress them with that. But it was funny how she said that he can play golf like freaking Michael Jordan.
She don't know.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so Felix and Anna are not in the episode.
Right.
I have a question because I can't remember. Do they ever come back? Because we know obviously after season 2 they're done, but do they ever come back in season 2?
Yeah, because that's when Brooke finds out about what he did to Payne's locker. So like
Okay, so he comes back for like one more episode.
maybe, yeah, just to, have
Finish
the
it.
breakup. Yeah. And I'm not sure. But yeah, it's like ending that arc for them. So yeah.
Because I'm like, we're already into episode 16 and he's not there to.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, and I know because I know that like the last couple episodes of season 2, she's with Lucas hanging out. So I'm just like, when does the whole Felix thing end?
Right.
I mean, I am waiting for that because I don't like them together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't even look like a couple when they're together.
Right. And then Brooke just then notices Jake is in the room next to Payne on the bed.
Okay, so I had an issue with this.
Yeah.
When she just walks in and like
Mhm.
they're right there and like they stop kissing and stuff, and I'm like, who doesn't see that?
Yeah, that's what Sophia said too. She doesn't know why she just kind of, didn't recognize that he was there with her.
And that they're like making out.
Yeah.
And there's a baby in the room. Like,
Right.
read the room.
Mm-hmm. And I think it might have been Hillary that said that she took it as like a comedy thing, like a Lucy Ball kind of moment. I don't know about that, but yeah, and like she was just like all excited about what's happening with her to notice. So I don't know.
Or was it that they were trying to make her dumb, so they were like, oh, let's just make you dumb and not realize that there's a room full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she calls Peyton Miss Jojo. I can't say his last name.
Jelski, whatever.
Yeah, and then
comes up with that last name.
Yeah, so she's all excited about them being in bed together, and says she's gonna leave. Let them be, and she's gonna do almost rich girl things, and she wants Payne to call her later with the details.
Well, and two, about her just barging in. What if she would have walked in on them?
Yeah, could have been. Yeah,
because you wouldn't have known. They're sitting there they're like not sitting. They're laying there making out. They could have well been doing something else, and so that's why it's like, and you were gonna just walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, too, doesn't Brooke know that he's like living there?
Yeah, she should.
So wouldn't you knock?
Right. Well, I mean, nobody seems to knock even when Payne's alone, but
you know that if your friend is living with a guy, you would not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Brooke didn't even know he was there for like a good 10 seconds. I don't know.
10. Like longer than that.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after she leaves, Jenny does actually say Dada this time.
And you know what I thought was so cute though?
Hmm.
I just thought Jake was so cute, and he was like such a proud dad. I was like, oh, that's so
Yeah.
cute. Oh, that's
Mm.
what you want your dad to be, is somebody that just thinks every little thing you do is cute, and and then and that's what you want your husband to do too,
Mm-hmm.
is think every little thing is cute. So I was just like that, and because he's a teenager, and it was just so cute
Yeah.
how happy he was.
Mm-hmm. So then Nathan is at his parents' place packing some food into his gym bag when Lucas comes walking up.
Because they can't afford food. Okay, Cynthia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he has this apartment. He's got to pay all the bills for it.
Mm-hmm.
He quit his job.
Right.
Well, how is he making? Okay, yes, I get he can't afford food. That's why he's stealing the food from his parents' house. But how is he paying for everything else?
Yeah, I don't know.
Plus, doesn't he have a car? So he has to pay car insurance.
Right.
I'm just confused. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you don't have to have insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to pay the bills for the apartment.
Right. Yeah, I have no clue.
And doesn't he have a cell phone? So he has to pay his cell phone bill. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to think if what the reason is that he how is he paying for this?
Right. I have no clue.
Well, especially too, I wouldn't think that he would have saved money working at the dealership, because it wasn't full time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was full time, I could see where you'd have all this money, but saved up. But
Mm-hmm.
he was working part time, and he's a high school student who also plays basketball.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious at when he had all this time to make all this money that he can still have the apartment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have no clue. So, maybe there's a possibility that Haley is sending him money from what she makes from the shows. Maybe.
You think she makes that much?
I mean, not really, but I don't know. Like maybe enough for something at least, like food. I don't know.
Because it always sounds like openers always say they don't make
Yeah.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
barely make enough to eat.
Right. I'm pretty sure they make most of their money from merch, but I don't know.
Well, but two, how many people are buying their merch compared to the actual
Mm-hmm.
concert?
Yeah. And I
If
feel like,
you're going to a concert, you're
mm-hmm.
gonna buy okay, you love Miley. You're gonna buy
Mm-hmm.
Miley's merch more than you're gonna buy whoever's opening for her. Especially
Right.
Cynthia, if they have never had um uh if they don't have a label and they
Mm-hmm.
don't have their own music coming out, then you're really not going to buy their merch. You know what I mean?
Right. Maybe it depends on the act, but yeah.
But two people who you've never heard of, you're gonna buy their
Right.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to Kenny Chesney, it was Kenny Chesney, Chris Stapleton, and Little Big Town. Those are three great acts.
Mm-hmm.
So I did buy from all three because I want those memories. But it's just those are three names. Chris and Haley aren't exactly a name.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't really buy from people like that. They just somehow are on tour.
Yeah, I don't know.
You would buy the records and you
Mm-hmm.
would buy Gavin DeGraw.
Yeah.
But you're not going to buy Chris and Haley's merch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, even if they did have merch, I would imagine that they would have to combine their images to make, more of a seller. And I know Nathan wouldn't like that.
Nope.
What was I
Anything
gonna
to do
say?
with Chris, it's dumpster.
Mhm. Oh, when I was listening to the recent Drama Queens podcast about this episode, Joy had mentioned that they think they were trying to write her out because she wasn't, she was like debating them on the blocking of where Haley would walk during scenes, and they didn't like that. So just I guess they're like nitpicking at things that they didn't like about her. So that's maybe why they were trying to write her out of the story of the show all together like that. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't think, like I said, I don't think if that was true, I don't think they really thought ahead of how this would be possible for Haley to go on tour with not even really technically a song out or a solo song of her own. So,
Well, and that's the thing is they recreated a song.
mm-hmm,
They didn't even come up with their own.
right.
So I just feel like you wouldn't go on tour for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
there's those people that their song goes viral, but they also
Mm-hmm.
wrote the song.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people who do covers. I don't really think they go on tour unless a label gets them from doing
Mm-hmm.
covers, gets their own song, and then they go on tour. That probably
Mm-hmm.
happens, but not
Yeah, it
you just
has.
go on tour.
Mm-hmm.
No. So I don't think she's making I think she's making enough money to survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, Lucas tells Nathan there would be free food at Keith's wedding. And Nathan says, he's not going. And Lucas asks if he's really going to do that to Keith
That threw me off
because
because
they're not super close.
they're not
Or,
that close. He doesn't know Keith.
I mean, they did bond over fixing that car, but since then, not really, no.
Exactly, because he quit his job. So
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't working there that long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he has this bond with him.
Right.
Like he's still strangers to Keith. So like they're still strangers. So it's just weird that he would go. I mean, he would go, yeah, because it's his uncle, but he's not gonna go. And like if he doesn't want to go because he doesn't know Keith. Like Lucas has the bond, not
Mm-hmm.
Nathan. So when he said that you're gonna do that to Keith, he don't even know Keith. Keith won't even realize he's gone.
Well, I think part of it is because he doesn't want to go because of everything with Haley, but he does know about Jules and how she's been lying to Keith.
Well,
That's
that's
why,
why. Yeah,
yeah.
that's why he's not going. Is
Mm-hmm.
he's in a bad spot with Haley and Jules, but he knows it's a fraud marriage. But I'm just saying that even if he chose not to and he was with Haley or something, and they want to, and like they both decided they didn't want to go or something,
Mm-hmm.
it still doesn't matter because it's not like they're having family pictures after like a regular family would.
Right.
They're probably not doing all that. Like Keith won't even realize he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Lucas says that he loves Jules and she loves him. She just made a mistake. And Lucas asks Nathan if he's going to crucify her that for the rest of her life.
Okay, that's what was funny was you could tell Lucas was talking about Haley at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but that was weird because then what Nathan said, because he was like, yeah, she told me that she's going to be on TV. And like Lucas was like, oh, like all of a sudden Lucas was like, oh, like now we're talking about Haley. And I'm like, oh, that's what you were hinting was Haley.
Right, I don't know.
But saying Jules. So I thought that was like a weird transition, how he was saying it, like reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
And but then Lucas, I'm really confused at his friendship with Haley now. Because he said, well, that's great. And I'm just like,
To what?
well, then Lucas was like, oh, like that's great for her or whatever. That she's going to be on
About,
TV.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
I was confused because I'm like, as a friend, wouldn't you want to watch it too?
Yeah, but maybe Haley only had time to tell Nathan, so she didn't get the chance to tell Lucas. And,
I know, but he didn't even seem like he was going to watch it. He just said, that's great for her. And I'm like, it didn't seem like sympathetic, like like this is my best friend and I need to watch it at any point.
well, I think he's going to be busy with the wedding, so he doesn't actually have time to sit down and watch it because he's going to
I
be at the
know, but
church.
couldn't he have said like, oh, I can't wait to watch it? Just like hinting that he cares about his friend.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he could have told Nathan to let him know how it went and what they said or something, but yeah. Just then Deb walks into the kitchen and tells Nathan she's glad he's there. She wants to make him eggs, and Nathan tells her she's out of
Just
eggs.
hello.
Mm-hmm. But he doesn't say anything more and just takes his things and leaves. And then Lucas apologizes about Nathan's behavior to her. And then that's when Deb goes into the cupboard after Lucas had walked out and takes a bottle of pills to take some of them. And Lucas sees because he's like creeping the doorway.
Lucas needs to stop watching everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop getting involved in everybody's life.
Yeah. The girls on the Drama Queens podcast thought this was creepy too. So then, next scene, Jules opens the front door to find Dan sitting right there. He says it's a great day for a wedding, and Jules asks what he wants, and he just says that he brought her a present. It's a necklace for her, something blue, and she takes it from him to, get a closer look, but then closes the box and gives it back to him, saying she's not going to take it. And he tells her that it's her final payment, and she mentions that he said that they were done. Dan says they are. He just wanted to say welcome to the family to her. And then Jules asks, that it's like, why is it so easy for him, to do this? And calls him King Scott, king of the world. And then saying someday somebody's going to bring him down, and she can't wait to watch. And Dan tells her not to hold her breath and calls her sweetheart. Yeah, so I just mentioned the scene where Dan goes to see Jules and gives her that necklace as like a way to say welcome to the family.
That was
But she,
creepy.
yeah, rejects the necklace.
I did
'Cause
like when she said, "What is this for?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then I thought we were all done.
yeah. And then at the cafe, I think we saw more than just Karen and Deb working there, because for the first time, there were other people in the kitchen with Karen.
Huh?
Because before we only saw like Karen, Deb, and Lucas and Haley work at the cafe, but now we see other people that we never saw before suddenly
This
working in
was
the kitchen.
this. I didn't think this was Karen's cafe. Thought this was wherever thought this was like at the church.
No, because Karen's in the kitchen, then she walks out to the front, and that's when Andy walks in to give her the envelope from his PI.
Mm.
And he brings up that it was discovered of Emily Chambers, and Andy assumes Dan is having an affair with her.
Oh my
And then,
God. And then, okay, so Andy's great investigator PI person came up with this Emily, but then they just decide that it's Dan like having an affair.
yeah.
I'm like, that's what your PI came up with?
Mm-hmm.
Your PI couldn't come up with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't hire that PI. Isn't the PI supposed to actually give you the full story?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he couldn't find out that part. But Karen says she doesn't know an Emily Chambers, or so she
You don't.
thinks.
But then Andy did find out. So how did the PI not get her ID? He gets it later on in the episode.
Yeah, I guess Andy just was jumping the gun and just try to get any info he had right away to try to stop him sooner. I don't know.
But wouldn't you think that'd be like some of the first things you'd get is their ID?
I don't know.
I was like, I think he should fire that investigator.
Yeah. So, Andy tells tells Karen that Dan is paying for Emily's rent, and all that bills. And, Karen feels sorry for Deb.
Poor Deb, she said. I was like, and then he was like, he didn't really want her feeling sorry for Deb.
Mm-hmm.
But why not?
Right.
I mean, they are friends, aren't
Mm-hmm.
they?
Yeah. And then Andy says if they want Lucas back, they have to beat him in his own game. And his guy has been working.
Their own game would be finding out the truth, not that. That ain't no truth.
Right. Yeah. So his guy is working on getting a photo of Emily. So right now they just like have her name and the bank statements and all that. But Whitey is looking.
Oh, so they can get the bank statement, but they can't get the ID?
Yeah, I guess. So Whitey is at a liquor store when Nathan walks up, and he's asking if he's getting liquid courage for the groom.
Oh, by the way, they didn't have Facebook back then.
No.
Because if they did, they'd find it out real quick.
Right, yeah.
All they gotta do is type in the name and there she pops up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything was a lot more difficult back then. PIs, you don't even need to be a PI to even,
Nope.
Find people these days. But yeah, so
that's the thing, is you can be your own PI.
Mm-hmm.
A lot cheaper.
Yeah. And Nathan says that it's not too late to stop Keith, tell him what kind of hell he's in for, like someone should have done for him.
Oh my God, can I just say, I loved Whitey in this scene.
Me too.
It's just like everything he was doing was so funny.
Right.
And what's funny is like Nathan clearly went over to Whitey to have pity.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't he realize Whitey never gives pity to Nathan? Ever?
Right. Right. You would think so, yeah.
I think the only time he gave pity was probably the father-son game?
Maybe, yeah.
Or him taking drugs. One or the other, because it was about Dan. But other than that, he doesn't take pity on Nathan, especially this situation. Like, you were dumb enough to get married at 16.
Mm-hmm.
It's. But I do like how, unlike others, like Dan, who was like, or Deb, that are just like, oh, just, get a divorce or whatever. Where Whitey is just like, no, she's your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that it means something, I was like, mm-hmm. Because, like, let's be honest, Cynthia. Back then, couples went through stuff, the hard things, but they came out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's marriages from back then that lasted 70 years. Because they didn't let each other go. They fixed the problem.
Right.
And nowadays, there's one little hiccup and it's divorce. Like that's why there's so many divorces, because people just give up. And instead of just fix the problem. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know, because I don't know about those relationships, but yeah.
And so that's why I'm just like, I agree with Whitey when he was like, can't always be happy. And, like it's great when it's all sunshine and stuff, but it's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because that's what Nathan thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a teenage view.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get older, that's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a lot of just every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they say every day you have to choose to love that person.
Yeah.
And right now Nathan's not really doing that.
Mm-hmm. But I did like when before Whitey walked out, he told the cashier that Nathan's ID is fake. Mm-hmm.
That was funny because he just keeps talking. And what I thought was weird too was why, like, Nathan comes up and just like puts his, like, and at first I was like, does Nathan think Whitey's gonna pay for his beer? And then, because that's what you might think as you're the cashier, like you two together, and it was kind of weird because that was never even asked. Because they're standing real close together. And then it was funny because, Whitey just keeps talking. Then, oh yeah, and his ID is fake.
Right.
I just love that part.
Mm-hmm. And then the cashier takes a case of beer and puts it behind the counter.
Oh, I didn't see that part. I just saw Nathan, like, really.
Mm-hmm. And then at Dan's house, Lucas is going through the cupboard to look for the bottle of pills Deb took earlier, and it's Oxycontin.
Oh, see, I didn't read that. I just saw him looking at the pills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
all I know is that house has a lot of medication.
Yeah.
So not Nathan, Lucas, Dan, Deb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it is under her name. I think it would have been more drama if they had it be like Dan's name on there, like, from his his injury from falling, I don't know, when he had a heart attack, but because we haven't seen Deb get hurt or anything recently, and as to why she would need them.
Yeah, I don't think they just prescribe it, right?
Right. I mean, at least not that easy, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe she must have paid somebody.
I don't know, yeah. But it does make sense why she got addicted to them, because we all know that's the one that is really bad for people.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason, Brooke pops in, scaring Lucas. And he asks what is she doing to his heart? And she says, good thing he doesn't have the genetic defect.
And I laughed. I was like, little does she know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, yeah.
Yeah. So Brooke had come by to tell her that her program, DW Not I, is up and running. So to pass the word on, at the word at the reception for any drunken, bitter bridesmaids and Deb, she adds.
Okay, so when did we go to Deb's a drunk?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what they mentioned in the Drama Queens podcast too, because we haven't seen her drink yet. So
Like
I don't
all
know.
we've seen is Keith, so that's the
Hmm.
only alcoholic on the show
Right.
besides Nathan. Um,
Hmm.
so when did we? I mean, now we're seeing her finally take, like the pills because obviously Deb, we know is kind of known for that, like later on, like popping the pills. But when did she like sit there and drink alcohol?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she was drinking when she was packing Dan's stuff up, but that's all I remember.
Yeah, but that's like the celebration.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all I can remember.
You know what
Like I
I
said.
like? Remember on Grey's Anatomy when Arizona's like, you don't want to drink and stuff. Like let's toast to your divorce. It's like that's just what some people do. So I wouldn't think twice for her to do that. I would just think she's celebrating. So, but other than that, I haven't seen her go down that road.
Yeah.
But okay, Brooke, how did you like how that she? I think too, in a way, she came over to invite herself to the wedding.
Yeah, I think besides for her program, I think that was what she was really going for too.
Oh yeah, and then she was like, "I'm a sucker for weddings." Lucas is telling like they're going through all of the, what's beautiful, the flowers and everything, and then he was talking about his best man speech, and you know, then it's brought up about her going as just friends and stuff, and then he said, "What about Felix?" And all she said was grounded. And I was like, I don't think that's what he meant. I think he meant, how is Felix going to feel about this? Like,
Yeah.
does he know you are inviting yourself to this wedding
Right.
and that you are going with me? I think that's how he took it.
Hmm. Yeah, and apparently Felix is grounded because his parents found out that Brooke was, spending the night there. So.
No, he was grounded because his parents found out about the bash for Brooke, that big party.
Oh. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wrote that, but I didn't even like comprehend. Um.
But I just was like, Brooke, you have a boyfriend. And
Hmm.
we know Felix gets jealous fast because he's been jealous of Lucas before with the election. So why wouldn't you even tell him?
Hmm.
Like, that's a good girlfriend. She's not gonna tell you that she's going to a wedding
Hmm.
with her ex-boyfriend to his uncle's wedding. Like, it's a family affair.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's not like Brooke is close with Keith either. So.
Well, why is Peyton going?
Um.
Peyton isn't close to Keith either, and neither is Jake. Like, why are
Yeah.
these two going?
Yeah, it would have made sense if it was like for one of them and the other was a plus one. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Oh, wait,
Hmm.
Peyton? Wait, Jules works at Trick,
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense
and
now. So
Peyton obviously works there
yeah,
too.
it's like a coworker thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like obviously you'd invite her.
Right. Yeah. So
Because
Jake's the plus one.
otherwise,
Hmm.
yeah, because otherwise I can't figure out a reason why Peyton would be
Right.
there either.
Hmm.
And Jake is the plus one then.
Yeah. It's easy because we've only seen Jules there like once, so it's easy to forget she even works there. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Lucas at first calls it a date. So Brooks, smile drops. So he says kind of, sort of, and then not really.
It was,
So.
I'm sorry, but it was good.
Hmm.
Because it's like, like I mean, that this is gonna go somewhere.
Hmm. And then Brooke walks into Payne's room, and Payne tells her, um, the top that she's wearing wasn't her mom's, and that's why Brooke thinks it's so cool. Um, and Brooke says, neither was this one, and undoes her jacket to show her very pink dress.
What I didn't like when she used Anne Frank's name.
Right, yeah, that was so random too. Yeah. You
But
could definitely
it's so
that's the writer.
disrespectful.
Yeah, insensitive, yeah.
Like that was the Holocaust.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
no, you're not getting murdered, Brooke. Like,
Right.
seriously?
Yeah, or in hiding, yeah.
Well, she's in hiding because she doesn't want to get murdered.
No, I'm
That,
talking about Brooke's not in hiding, yeah.
but that's what I'm saying is like the story is she was in
Yeah.
hiding because of it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm just like, couldn't think if it did something different.
Right, yeah, that was just all the writers. Um I remember this dress. I listened to the Drama Queens podcast again, and this was about almost 3 years ago now that they recorded this episode for their show. And at that point, Sophia had said she didn't have the dress, but she wanted it. And now we know later this year, a few months ago, she had posted that same dress for her Brooke Davis outfits TikTok video. So I haven't, I stopped listening, I think after 217 for their podcast, but I guess she did eventually get the dress back. I don't know how. So, but it was nice
Yeah, I
to
don't know either.
hear how she did eventually get it back. So,
Oh, one thing, when she was with Lucas talking, she said that love triangles are so last season.
mm-hmm.
Um, okay, first, like, okay, like you're going to with Lucas, but also Felix doesn't even know you're going with Lucas. Isn't that another love triangle?
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know. It's not like he's cool with this. So I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
so you're basically doing what a Peyton now or a Lucas now? I'm like, you're not telling your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just like, that is a love triangle, Brooke.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. But it's just weird how she said it in the midst of it being a love triangle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Well,
But go ahead.
maybe it's because she doesn't realize that Lucas has feelings for her and she doesn't have feelings for him. So maybe
She
that's why she
does
doesn't
too
see
have
it.
feelings for Lucas.
Well, maybe she hasn't realized it yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they threw that in because they know it's about to happen.
Hmm.
So yeah, so for Peyton though, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like when she said, "How's it going?" And Peyton said, "Slow," and she said like fast is better. And I was like, that is just like I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, and the thing is like Jake has a kid. So maybe he wants to take it slow because he don't want another one.
Right.
He's having fun, like he's having difficulties with this one. I mean, as in like trying to protect her. So he doesn't want to do it
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yeah, I just saw it as Brooke like kind of joking at herself because she doesn't take it slow. So like that's more herself taking it fast.
I don't know. I feel like she wants everyone to take it fast.
Yeah, I don't know. And then back at Dan and Deb's, Lucas steps into Deb's room and he mentions that Nathan was kind of abrupt this morning and he wants to make sure she's okay. And Deb says she's fine. And Lucas just, goes into it. And he says after his accident, the doctors prescribed him some powerful painkillers, except they gave them to his mom because they knew how easy it would be for him or anyone for that matter to become addicted.
You know what I thought was weird about this scene?
Hmm.
Like Deb is his stepmom.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I mean,
She is.
yeah, just he never calls her that, that. So just
No, but that's what she is.
yeah,
But like when he like wants to talk to her, she's so awkward about it. And I was like, what if he really truly had a problem? And like as a stepmom, you'd want to be there for him. So it just seemed like she was like a little awkward at first. I mean, she was awkward through the whole scene, especially when he got talking about her pills. But I was just like, it wasn't like she was like open, like, like, honey, is there anything I can help you with? Like, I was like, this is weird. Like, that's your
well,
stepmom, and she isn't really, like opening with you.
well, I didn't see that because he said that that's why his mom had them, so he wouldn't take them.
No, but I'm saying
Use
at the
them.
very beginning when he wants to talk to her,
Oh,
she had that like weirdness, and I was just like,
Well, she wasn't happy about him moving in, so I don't think she really cares for him that much.
Oh, but she cared enough when in season 1.
Yeah, I don't know. That was, she's changing now, so she doesn't like.
So now she hates him.
Yeah, yeah, she's just not in that mindset anymore. Yeah, because she asks if he's been spying on her, and she tells him, that it's her house, he's a guest, and as
I
long
didn't
as
like
he's,
that either. It's my house, and it's like, okay, let's put it what it is too. He's also Dan's son. Ha.
hmm I mean, he was snooping around when he shouldn't have been, but
He what? Okay, even if he wasn't standing right there, he could have walked in and saw her taking the pills.
hmm
But also too, like she, I just didn't like when she said, "It's my house. You're a guest," and then what he should have said was, "It's my dad's house too,"
hmm
because it's true.
yeah,
No matter what, it's Dan is his father, and it's still Dan's house too.
hmm
I just didn't. I don't like the way she's treating him. I don't like Deb in
right,
in season 2.
hmm yeah. So he says he's just trying to help, and she says that's just what she needs, an adolescent boy to solve all her problems, and then tells him to get out of there. And he's way out of line and way out of his league, and shuts the door
What
in his
was up,
face.
Cynthia?
Hmm?
Way out of your league.
Yeah, I guess because he's young and doesn't understand what she's going through or anything.
I get way out of line, but I was like, way out of your league?
Yeah, that saying's usually when it comes to, being interested in a
Dating?
person.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's the writers, and the actors just say what's on their papers. I'm
Because
very sure.
but I was just like, why though? Well, I'm not
Right.
saying anything against the actors. I'm saying in the
hmm
writing, like you should have stopped it at it's way out of line,
hmm
not way out of your league.
Right. I know.
That is like I am way out of like I was like, this is turning weird now.
hmm
That should have stopped at your way out of line, and then that was it.
Right. And then Andy and Karen are getting ready for the wedding in front of the vanity mirror when Andy asks Karen if she still thinks it looks weird with them being together. She says it feels good. And that's when Andy very easily says that he loves her and freezes because he shocked himself saying these words to her for the first time.
But then he said he's been like waiting to say them, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah, it's never been the right time because he mentions with Lucas being thrown into
yeah,
jail.
but then why is he like so like trying to excuse the fact that he said it? He's
I
trying
think
to
because
explain it, and I'm like, instead of just saying it.
yeah, I think he just didn't want to overwhelm her with everything going on right now, and her mind isn't on the relationship just as much. It's on Lucas, so he didn't want to like add on something to her plate that she has to think about when she's already got enough to think about. I don't know. But yeah, he stops rambling and then tells her he loves her again. He loves her mind, her heart, loves picturing their future together, and he hates the thought of her ever not being in his life. And he doesn't, he tells her not to say anything. She doesn't have to. He just had to get it out. And then Karen also tells him that she loves him too. And he says he was hoping she'd say that and then kisses her. So yeah, that was sweet. A moment between them.
Yeah, I just didn't know why he had to justify it.
Right.
Like, if you love her, you love her.
hmm Yeah, like I said, he just didn't plan for that to happen. So. And then Jake is ready to go, but Payne's taking an extra minute and then steps out of the bathroom. He thinks she looks stunning and says, good thing they're taking it slow. And she
And then they
agrees.
don't.
Yeah. Until they get closer enough to they can kiss. And then they do. And Payne takes off his jacket, which is a segue to Keith putting on his at his house. And he puts the wedding ring in his pocket. And then Nathan at his apartment is looking at the picture of him and Haley from their wedding day. Then we see Dan and Deb from their wedding day as well. Deb is looking at it. We see Jules getting ready, and then we see Payne and Jake in bed.
And they are going at it.
Mm-hmm. And then Lucas is picking up Brooke. He tells her she looks amazing. And then we go back to Payne and Jake in bed. Jake asks how Payne is feeling. And Payne answers she's happy. He says he is too.
Yeah, then he checked
yeah,
his watch, and the weddings are usually late, right? So then they go at it again. I'm like, oh, good.
yeah,
They're gonna be late.
yeah. And it's a good thing they're not close to Keith, because then that'd be really bad. But
Yeah, like if it was Lucas.
yeah, but either way, still rude for them to get there late. But Brooke and Lucas walk into the church to see the two swan ice sculptures. Dan really went out with this, with the decorations and everything. And Brooke thanks Lucas for bringing her. He then asks how are things with Felix. She says good, and then adds on great to like make it more sound convincing. And she says he helped her with her campaign, threw her a party, but she doesn't know he's been so sweet lately. But she's been feeling really independent, and she doesn't even know if she wants a boyfriend right now.
Yeah, okay. She wants one, I think. She just don't want that one.
Right. Yeah.
She
So
wants the one. She wants the one she's talking to.
yeah. So it's interesting how at first we saw her kind of growing out of the party girl scene, and now she's like completely like wanting to be single again in general,
Well, I just don't know if she really wants to be single. I think she just doesn't want someone that reminds her of her past.
Maybe, yeah. Just the way
Like,
she was talking to Lucas, it seemed that way.
yeah, but we also know what happens after. So
Hmm. Yeah, Lucas says they're both finding a new way for themselves.
I
And then,
did like when she said that she was cold and that he gave her his jacket. It
yeah.
was a cute moment.
Hmm.
Well,
And then,
I'm not a Brooke and Lucas fan, but it was cute.
yeah. And then on the tour with Haley and Chris, they're about to have their television interview. And I think this was the manager of them, or Chris or somebody, tells them to, how they should act in the interview, including Haley taking off her wedding ring.
Well, that was the manager's suggestion.
Right.
And then he said that, and she was like, no. And he said that guys or girls should want to be you, and guys should want to be with you. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. That's how it usually goes for female singers, especially when they're starting out and they're young. They like have to, keep up with that certain image. Um, yeah. So, because he says with a duet being a love song, they sound and look like a couple. So let the viewers think that, and of course, Chris is all for this. And the manager tells Haley that, just to lose the wedding ring again because it's
So
getting in
I
the
will
way.
say that he didn't say she had to do it. It was a suggestion.
Mm,
So for me, I mean, I would have been against it too,
mhm,
and I would have said no. Like you can tell me all day long, I need to do this, but I won't do it.
mhm,
But for me, I mean, it was only a suggestion.
yeah.
So she still definitely should have, like could have worn it because it was only a suggestion. It wasn't, she wasn't forced. Like you sign this contract that says you got to take your wedding ring off during interviews.
Mhm,
There was nothing like that. So she didn't have to. So there shouldn't have been a fight over it. And then
mhm,
when because then she turns to Chris and says, I can't believe like you're asking me to do this. And it's like, you don't have to do it. It was only a suggestion, girl.
mhm. Yeah, well, the part when the manager says the wedding ring gets in the way, and then Chris added, for some people, so that was like telling on himself that he doesn't care that Haley's married, and so went
Haley
after
didn't
her.
care that Haley was married.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like that was something that he said there.
Yeah, but Haley didn't care either.
Hmm.
And she was wearing it. How do you not feel it?
Yeah, and then I did like Haley too when Chris says, that this is their shot, nothing else matters, and Haley says that Nathan matters.
And he
Though
said, well,
she
what are you
didn't.
doing? But it's kind of like, well, what are you doing there?
Yeah, as I say, he didn't seem to matter before, but yeah.
Okay, so she left and does she care now because she knows she has a chance with Nathan?
Maybe, I don't
When
know.
before, when the ultimatum happened, it was me or the tour, but now she knows there's a chance. I don't know.
Yeah, that, and maybe because she knows that if she ends up having something with Chris, the public will know it now, and not just between like the three of them, like
Or
before.
she knows it won't last.
Yeah, I don't know. So,
Like Chris probably goes after every girl, so
hmm,
it's not going to be like what she wants, which is a stable relationship.
yeah,
Okay, you think being with a star athlete is not gonna be in the public?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
You know, like that's what Nathan wants. So you don't think that's going to get in the way?
Mm-hmm. And then Nathan is at home anxiously waiting to watch the interview. He turns on the TV and Gavin DeGraw is singing, and the announcer, Nick Zano, which is funny because I used to watch him in a CW show. So it was kind of weird to see him so young in this. But
Why, what were you watching?
it was Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw him in what was it? Things I Hate About You or something
Oh, okay.
with Amanda Bynes and Jenny Garth.
Yeah, I remember that show. I watched a little bit of that, but I don't remember
Well,
him being on there.
what's funny is that Lauren from One Tree Hill in the later seasons, she was on that show too.
Hmm.
She just had brown hair. And then here she has blonde. But anyway, it's just funny, like where you see everybody.
Right. And then yeah, so he's hosting a show called Totally Live Week. Was that like a MTV thing, or like they were like making it look like an MTV thing or something?
Probably because they couldn't get MTV.
Right. Which is funny because not Payne Hillary was on there, but they can't use her obviously as a host, but thought maybe she could maybe get some streams from that. So he says Gavin is on tour with the Wreckers and with two newcomers whose single When the Stars Go Blue drops next Tuesday. So now we finally get it confirmed that the song hasn't even come out yet, and yet they're still already doing this tour. So I don't know how they keep saying people love the duet when it's not even out yet, unless it leaks somewhere, but I don't see how that happened.
Oh, about Hillary though. I did remember her like kind of saying like it was a lot to do MTV and the show.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave up MTV after like the first or second season.
Right. Yeah, I heard that too.
So
Yeah.
maybe because this was towards the end of the season, maybe, she had
She
already told them I'm done.
like burned a bridge with them,
So
maybe.
probably, yeah. It could have been. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they
But I
just
just but I just remember her saying, I mean, it was like after the second season. So
Yeah. And then Nick introduces Haley James and Chris Keller.
and then she goes,
And
Haley James Scott.
and then Nick says girls with three names are always trouble, which I didn't get. And Chris says Haley's no different. Did he mean like three names that can sound like first names, or
No,
just three names in general?
three names in general, I think.
Because we both have three names, but we're not in trouble, so I don't know what he meant by that.
No, like you don't use your middle name
Oh, yeah.
because then like 99% of the country has, or in the world has that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Like
like two people, like two last names.
yeah, entertainment thing. Because I know a lot of people also like, go by their first and middle name as their stage name. So,
Well, Chad, I think there
Mhm.
was already a Chad Murray or something.
Mhm.
So he had to go by Chad Michael Murray, his middle name.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So for him, yeah, you can say he has three names, but it's also his middle name. So
Mhm. Yeah. So then, Nick asks if they're a real couple, in real life.
okay, and
And
here's the thing:
yeah,
is Chris said yes, and she said nothing. But I'm just like, and then it goes to Nathan's reaction. But I'm like, Nathan, she didn't say yes.
yeah, and you can tell she was gonna say something, but Chris cut her off too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. She. I was like, Nathan, because then later on he says she said she did. She said nothing. She didn't say
right.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can tell he's like, we're done. Like his reaction, and I'm like, didn't say it.
I guess maybe he was mad that she didn't try to say it after Chris
Or
said
she
that
didn't
she was
cut, or
otherwise.
she didn't cut Chris off by saying no.
Yeah. And I wasn't even looking. Did she have her ring on or not? Because she could
I
have like held
know,
it up, but
I know. I was trying to look too, but I don't know if she did. She was probably hiding it.
okay, yeah.
See, I would have made the managers mad because I'd have been like, I'm married.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe the camera like frame wasn't that wide enough to see her hands, but yeah, so.
You know what's weird too, though? Like, if you really truly think your husband is number one
Mm-hmm.
and he means that much to you, you would tell the world.
Right.
And that's what's annoying is like, if you truly believe that about Nathan,
Mm-hmm.
you would tell
Right.
that you're married at least, not who to who, because maybe he wants privacy because you've never talked about it, but at least say you're married.
Mm-hmm.
I just, because again, you don't
Yeah.
have to say to who. Nobody's going to
Mhm.
investigate because you're still like a nobody in the business.
Yeah.
So that's just why it's just annoying.
Yeah. And then when she corrected her name, she could have said like Scott is my husband's name, or I'm, Scott because I'm married or something like that. She could have did that too. So maybe that's
Yeah,
why
it's my
Nathan was also
married.
mad.
That's
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's when she could have said it was when
Mhm.
he said, "Oh, 3 names." That's when she could have said, "Yes, Scott's my married name."
Yeah. So maybe that's why Nathan was mad too. Like she had two chances to say something, but she didn't entirely. So.
No, I think he took it as she said it because that's what he said, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't though. It didn't come out of her mouth. It came out of
Right.
Mr. Chris's mouth, who is doing everything to ruin your marriage. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why wouldn't Chris say it?
Right.
The manager said, act like you're a couple. So he's like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's giving me permission to say it,
Right. Yeah.
because he loves doing everything in his power to ruin it. So it's like,
Mm.
now here's my opportunity to tell the world. And see, the
Right.
thing is, I wouldn't want to be associated with Chris Keller.
Right. Yeah. Me neither.
No, if it was like someone else, like, just about anybody else, then okay, but it's Chris Keller. So it's like, it's like a frown. So you're like, why would you want to be associated dating that?
Mm-hmm.
Who says his name?
Yeah. The right person. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, and you want to be associated with dating that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The first person. Yeah.
Well, because the story in One Tree Hill is the running theme is, he's the mockery of it. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be associated with it.
Right.
It's not like you're dating Nick Zano.
Right. Yeah.
That's when you could say, all right.
Right. Yeah. So then we go to the church with Deb and Dan. They're greeting people outside, and then they have their picture taken. Then Lucas walks up with Brooke. Dan tells
Well,
him his
my son cleans up good.
yeah.
Okay, so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not Nathan.
Right.
And he hates Lucas, except
Mm-hmm.
for season 2.
Yeah. Then Lucas and Brooke head towards the doors of the church when
Oh, I have a question. Did
yeah,
Deb look at Dan when he said that?
I didn't even notice.
Because it's not like Dan publicly says it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Lucas is my son.
Right.
So it's because I know in the argument when he moved in, he said, well, he's my son. But from there, he's never really said it again.
Right.
And so here, when he said it out loud, I was surprised she didn't like look at him like, what? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Right. I don't know. Then just as Brooke and Lucas are walking, towards the church, Dan tells
This
Brooke
was
to save him
creepy.
a slow dance. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, why? Where? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we know that Dan is like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but when did he get perverted into like Brooke?
I don't know.
We know he likes younger women,
Mm-hmm.
but the kids that are actually Nathan's age and go to school with Nathan, like we've never heard him have this image
Attraction.
of
Mm-hmm.
of her Brooke,
Mm-hmm.
because all I mean, how many parties have they had? And he's never, have said it or thought it or looked at her that way. So to say it now is weird.
Yeah. Because like even when in the pilot when Payne had walked out of the shower with just a towel on, like he looked like he was like disturbed that she just walked out like that in front of him. So
Yeah, remember? Didn't he say like cover up? Like, and that's the thing. And even because we know that he was kind of flirting with that bartender at his house that in season 1, but that wasn't
a minor.
but she also wasn't Nathan's classmate / friend.
Yeah.
So it's weird that he's saying it now.
Yeah, definitely.
He hasn't had this love affair of her, so it's weird.
Right. Yeah, because he was making a big deal out of Deb looking bad with
Tim.
Yeah, so
Remember, because he said this will be good, like for the lawyers.
Yep.
And again, that would be great for Deb to win.
Yeah.
You wanted to dance with Brooke. And I mean, there's proof. Lucas was there when he heard it. So put Lucas and Brooke on the stand.
Yep. And then when they're far away enough from him, she calls him an old perv and is, probably regretting coming to the wedding now. And then inside, Lucas apologizes to Brooke about Dan. She says it's okay. She gets worse from drunk high school boys every Saturday night.
Yeah, but then he said, not when it's your dad. And she goes, huh? Like, I never heard you say that.
Right,
he said,
yeah.
I'm just trying it out.
Yeah, see how it sounds? Like, that's weird.
Well, what's weird, okay, well, it was one thing to say it to Dan outside, remember, at the jail, but now to say it to somebody else,
right?
Like, he's getting too comfortable with saying it now. That's what I'm getting out of it is, again, it's one thing to say it to somebody because then you can deny it all you want. But when you say it to somebody else, you can't really deny it because that person now has leverage over that now. I'm not saying Brooke is ever going to use it against them, but I'm just saying, like, it's weird to say it out loud to somebody else.
And then we see the moment where, Brooke gets cold because they have the AC up for Keith because he's nervous. And she, Lucas puts the jacket on her.
Oh, yeah. I already said all that.
Yeah, I was just going past it because this is when it happens. And then, Lucas goes to be with Keith to see if he needs anything as the best man. And, Brooke asks if his ego can handle it, if she just needed him to get inside the door. And Lucas says, no, not really. And then Brooke finds Lucas's best man speech in the pocket of his jacket. And then Lucas walks up to Keith, who's standing at the champagne bar. So Lucas asks, old habits die hard, huh? And Keith tells him that's just water. And then mentions it's really hot in the church. It's not really, mentions it is really hot in the church. And Lucas tells him he's going to be fine. And Keith tells Lucas he's glad he's there, even though he's still living with the devil.
Yeah, I did like when he was called the devil.
Yeah. And then he says he doesn't want to get mushy or anything, but he wants to thank Lucas, for being himself and for being his best man. And he's proud of the man he's trying out to be. And Lucas asks him, like, who do you think I learned it from? And then just then Keith spots Karen from across the room. And then Karen walks over to Keith. She tells him he looks amazing. He tells her she does too, as always. And she says it's good to see him happy and Jules is great. And Keith says she really is. It's like he found his place in the world and it was right here all along. And then Keith tells Karen how he appreciates her and Deb for staying up for Jules because she doesn't really have anybody else. Did he mean for like giving her the job at the club maybe?
No, the wedding.
Oh, the bridesmaids. Yeah, okay.
Because Deb and Karen are bridesmaids.
Right. Okay.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
One has to be the maid of honor.
Right, and I don't think it's going to be Karen, so I don't know.
But it was. Because when they walk out, Deb walks out first, stands here, and then Karen walks up and is almost standing next to Keith because that's where Jules is supposed to stand. And I was just like,
I guess she volunteered to be like kind of, do it for Keith, not really, Jules, but yeah, I don't know.
And also,
good point.
Keith slept with both, or almost, well, he didn't really sleep with Karen yet. Well, he wants to.
Yeah, but he's had some kind of connection with both of them, yeah.
Yeah. He slept with one and was in love with the other one.
Mm-hmm. Then Karen passes by Andy, who looks in distress, and Karen asks if everything's okay. And he says he has to go pick up something really quick and he'll be back. He's not going to miss her going down the aisle. And then Lucas finds Brooke as she's touching up her makeup, and she tells Lucas not to look at her. And he asks if she's been crying. She says, just tearing up a little because she found his speech in his jacket. And she tells him not to leave his journal around where she can find it either, and gives him his jacket back. And, she just says that it was beautiful, and she, has that quote, "Remember tonight, for it is the beginning of always." And he says, that Stain, they read him last semester, and Brooke admits she needs to pay more attention to English. And Lucas says the rest is him, though, and Brooke mentions the part about taking chances and believing the possibility, even when life has given you every reason not to believe. And Lucas, says that what's so great about weddings is that two people come together, even if it's for one night, to make them believe in love again. And Brooke tells him to stop because she doesn't have any more tissues, and that's when Lucas gives her his handkerchief to her. And Brooke says she hopes for, her wedding someone says something that nice about her. And Lucas says he thinks she can count on that one. So I've seen edits of her saying that, and then flash forward to her wedding where Haley was the one that said the speech, the nice things about her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just nice to see that someone did do that for her. So just like a full circle thing. But just then Brooke gasps when she sees Payne and Jake walking up and says they totally did it. And then the photographer takes the very moment of them reacting to that. And then Payne whispers they're in a church, and Brooke says, "So if I can tell, so can he," and points up.
What did you think of like the photographer taking all these pictures? I mean, because he took one of Dan and Deb outside, and it was like, okay, like that's a fake relationship.
Yeah, but at least they posed for it, because he just like kind of just took the one of Payne and Jake as they were walking up. I mean, maybe it was for like a candid shot, but still, it's just funny it was that moment he got.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is just funny because it's the reaction.
Mm-hmm. And then the next scene is Keith, fixing his tie. And Whitey mentions, because he's in the room with him, Whitey mentions he hasn't worn one of these things. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Whitey is fixing his tie. And that's when Keith walks in, and he says he hasn't worn one of these things since Dick Nixon was in office. And
oh, by the way, when it's outed that they slept together, it's really weird because like Lucas is standing right there.
That wasn't in this episode, was it?
He was standing right there with Brooke. When Jake and Peyton walk up, and then Brooke just totally outed them. You guys totally slept together. And I'm like,
oh, them. Yeah.
I was like, that's so weird for Lucas, because I'm like, that was a love triangle. Brooke, Lucas, and Peyton. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah, I guess because Brooke thinks that Lucas doesn't have any more feelings for Payne, so it's okay, but yeah. But it seems like when she's excited about something, she has to say it, like she can't hold it back.
Why didn't she just pull Peyton off to the side or something?
Yeah, I don't know. She wasn't really thinking. But with Keith and Whitey, Keith says he appreciates the effort, and Whitey says he feels like a penguin, which was funny.
But what did you like, though, or whatever, when he was like, oh, you want a drink? I'm like, so Whitey must also be a drunk. Because he seems to get drunk with Keith all the time.
And then so it was nice to see Keith so that he's gonna do this one sober. But then Keith's parents were mentioned, and it's apparently they're on a safari, and that's why they're not coming to the wedding.
And it's weird because his mom seemed to love Keith. So you would think that at least she'd be there, even if Royal isn't.
Yeah, because
but then he said that he just told them that they can come like next week or next month or whatever and meet Jules, and I'm like, huh? It's weird. Yeah, like your son is getting married for the first time.
Yeah, their firstborn. Yeah,
and you're not going to be there. Yeah, but it's Keith's first marriage. You're not going to be there.
Yeah, I don't know, because I guess they had this trip planned for a while, and his dad doesn't want to cancel it. I mean, they did offer to cancel it, but Royal would be, sad about it the whole time, like pot about it the whole time. So
It's
I
just
don't know.
weird.
Yeah, I think that was just them mentioning his parents. I mean, just to say, like, explain where they are, but it's just the fact they couldn't get the actors to come back, maybe, or they didn't want to bring them back for this one episode. I don't know.
They could have just said they were stuck there.
Yeah, like it was a non-refundable trip or something. Yeah.
Like they couldn't get a plane out of there for the wedding, so they couldn't come. They were about to come or something. Could have been that easy instead of saying they basically don't want to come.
Right.
Like, really?
And then just then they hear
Oh, and I
Nathan.
also think that because Dan is so evil that he's just like Royal. Only I think Royal beats him sometimes, and that would have been a good thing of like for Royal to be like, will he actually get married? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like Dan, like I gotta be there to witness it. Like that's just who he is. So I just would think Royal would be there just to see if he could, actually, for proof. Like, okay, he did get married.
Yeah.
Like Dan is doing it. Are they good? What's about to happen? Like he's so in and out for the drama.
Just then they hear Nathan outside yelling, "True love." That's a good one. Don't do it, Keith. Just get out while you can. It's a lie. There's no such thing as forever. And then
Dan coming around the corner and like, what the hell are you doing? This is a church, for God's sakes. I'm like,
yeah.
Dan, you of all people are going to say that?
Right. And then Nathan tells him to shut his hole and calls him a hypocrite. He knows what he did. And then, Deb walks out now and tells Nathan it's okay. Let them help him be happy again.
And then he said that like you two, like, he didn't have a chance with you guys, and which is true. Because they were putting him in the middle. That's all they were doing. So, and before that, Deb wasn't even around. So he didn't have a chance with them.
Right.
He was right about that. But then Lucas gets in the middle. And then he told him, like, don't do this, not today, not to Keith.
Yeah, I did like how Nathan had mentioned that even, his mom doesn't know how to be happy, and that, he assumes, accuses Dan of hiring Chris as well to mess up his, relationship with Haley. Yeah, Dan, threatens Nathan to not make him knock him out. And when Nathan finally does walk away from the church, Lucas is walking with him, and that's when Nathan tells him that Haley said she was with Chris on national TV.
And that's what I don't understand. Like, Nathan, she did not say that. And then like Lucas even said, like, I don't believe that. And I'm like, because it's not true. And so yeah, when he said that, I'm like, whatever, Nathan. Like, you see, this is where the twist comes. It's like now you have a different story, and you're painting her as like the devil, because that's not what happened at all.
Yeah.
And because if that was the truth, wouldn't she have kept her as Haley James on tour?
Right.
In the interview? And not have said Scott? I'm like, really, Nathan? And plus two, for Haley, I wanted to mention this, but I forgot about it. When she was going through the debating if she should wear her ring and stuff, I'm like, Haley, you told Nathan about this interview on TV. You don't think that you should have done everything to save your marriage? Do you know what like? He knows about this. Really? You don't think, okay, even if he didn't watch it, you don't think that somebody would tell him about it?
Right.
Like, I saw your wife on TV and this is what she said, or why wasn't she wearing her ring, or just anything. And then he would have found, he would have found out. So why wouldn't you do everything in your marriage or in your life to save your marriage?
Right.
That's what I had an issue with of her too, is you just told him you're going to be on TV. And that's what you did?
Yeah.
Whatever. But anyway, I didn't like when he said that about Haley, that she's the one that said they're together.
Yeah. And then the next scene is the cab for Brooke's DUI not I program, with Brooke letting Nathan know it's there for him to use. Lucas pushes him into the cab.
I like that she said, I'm glad it was Nathan.
Yeah.
that got drunk. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then Lucas gives a tip to the driver, telling him to make sure Nathan gets inside the apartment. And then that's when Andy gets back and tells Karen they have a problem. And she thinks thinks he's talking about Nathan, but no, he says that they found Emily.
Yeah, it
He
was
then-
fun. It was funny because she goes, yeah, because Nathan's a mess and we have to start. It's like,
Mhm.
it's funny.
Yeah. And then he shows Karen the paper of a copy of Jules's ID or Emily's, showing her real name. And then that's when Jules gets out of, her limo that brought her there. And then the next scene, Karen goes to see Jules in the dressing room, asking her if she's all set.
Let me help you with that, Emily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then she said, did Lucas tell you? And then Karen's like, what? Like Lucas knows? And it's like, well, then she said, he knows you have an affair with Dan. So she still doesn't get it.
Right.
Like what?
Mm-hmm.
Like your PI is so great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Jules tells her that she's not having an affair with Dan. And, Karen asks, why else would Dan put her up in an apartment and pay her bills and everything?
But then she figures it out all of a sudden.
Yep. And Jules says, he was trying to get back at Keith. And Karen says, oh, so you're a whore. And
But
Jules
then she said, well, then she did say though that like you're one to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she was like, why would you do that and stuff, like hurt them and you're I was like, oh, then they were going back and forth at each other. I was like, oh, this is getting good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whoops. Hit my mic. And then how could she do it to Keith after everything he's been through? And Jules asks, doesn't it she mean like after everything she put him through? And that's when Karen slaps her.
It was good. That was a hard slap.
Mm-hmm. And says, how dare you? And Joe replies with, how dare I? You didn't want him, and now that he's actually found someone who loves him back,
And
you want
that
to
he's
take that away from
happy
him.
too.
Yeah.
Like just let him be happy. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so let him not know the truth.
Right.
Because here's the thing. You tell Keith the truth and he chooses to still be with you, that's on him.
Mm-hmm.
But let him know that 20 years later when it comes out, then he'll be like, then my 20 years was wasted.
Yeah.
On a lie. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I get a little confused because I'm like, I just feel like the person should know up front, and then whatever they choose, that's for them. Because then you can say, you knew when things fall apart.
Yep.
And also, I would want to know because I want to know what else the person is lying about.
Mm-hmm. And then while everyone is sitting down waiting for it to begin, Brooke asks Payne, about if it, how was it meeting sex with Jake? Was it
in
awesome?
The church.
Yeah. And then tells Payne to blink if it was good and twice if it was better than that. And Payne blinks her eyes a lot of times. And
how does Jake not hear any of this?
Yeah, because he's sitting right next to her. I don't know. And it's not like it's super loud right now.
And two, like, wouldn't Jake want to see her face to see how many times she's blinking?
Mm-hmm.
Like as a guy.
Yeah. And just then Keith, Whitey, and Lucas walk out to take their places. Brooke waves to Lucas, and Dan is sitting there looking happy in the front seating area.
He's so funny. He was just sitting up there just so I think he is enjoying this wedding more than anyone.
Yeah.
It's pathetic.
Mm-hmm. And then Karen runs into Andy in the hallway. He asks if she's okay.
I just have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is it weird that at this point, Dan knows, Lucas knows, Andy knows, Karen knows. It's like a lot of people know, and nobody said anything.
Right.
They're just gonna let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, like everyone. So if Jules walks down the aisle, they're all just gonna be like smiling.
Right.
How can you do that? Fake a smile like that?
Right.
Knowing he's making the biggest mistake of his life. And he doesn't even know.
Right.
And then you've got the culprit right there. Sitting there, smiling.
Yeah. And then Andy asks what Jules said, and Karen says it's not Dan. She loves Keith, and Andy asks if she believes her. And Karen looks over at Keith and tells Andy she has to. and Deb lets him know it's time. And then we see Jules getting ready, putting the veil over her head, and Deb is walking down the aisle first, then Karen, and Keith tells Lucas that his
Your
mom looks
mom looks
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too.
Another
You know,
thing too. He did told Karen straight to her face, like, basically, Jules is the love of my life, blah blah. I'm so happy I found her, blah blah blah. When really the truth is the love of his life is standing right there that he's telling.
mhm,
But also then this scene, he tells Lucas, your mom looks so beautiful, which is weird because you're getting married to somebody else. But also, did you notice Karen walks down, stands next to Deb, right?
mhm,
And Keith is staring at Karen the whole time. He's watching her.
yep,
And I'm like, for somebody that thinks the love of their life is about to walk down the aisle, you're
mhm,
looking at someone else?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Cynthia,
and mhm,
if this is your wedding day and your soon to be husband, the groom, is watching your bridesmaid walk down the aisle and is watching her and then still watching her as she's standing right there,
mhm,
wouldn't you be a little, upset?
yeah,
And don't you think the other people in the audience are gonna go, like that are in the church, are gonna go, why does he keep staring at her?
right,
And then tell you,
mhm, yeah, because they
like
kept
he's
looking at,
making it so obvious that he likes Karen.
mhm, yeah, because they kept looking at each other until the wedding march started. So,
I couldn't. I was like, you are not making this believable, Keith.
mhm. And everyone waits for Jules to walk out except for Dan, who is looking at Keith. He's smiling, knowing before Keith of what's happening.
Oh my god. So what was funny
Hmm.
was that Karen looked at Dan. Dan looked at Keith.
Right.
I was just like, all these looks are so
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah. And then finally, after what seemed like a good 5 minutes, Annie walks
Mm-hmm.
out saying he's sorry she left. So was he just staying behind the whole time? Because he said he wanted to watch Deb walk, I mean, Karen walk
Karen.
down the aisle, but then he ends up not doing so because he was still in the back for some reason.
I guess maybe he's on the phone with his PI.
Oh yeah, it could be it. Because like I could see him like sitting down watching Karen go down. Well, I guess then he would have saw the looks, but I would say he could have sat down and then after it was a good minute until Jules wasn't walking out, then he'd be like, I'm gonna go check or something, then walk out again. But I don't know. I just thought it was weird out
Also,
of anybody for him to be that to announce
what
that
I
she's
thought
gone.
was also weird was when Deb walked down the aisle, Brooke was saying something to Peyton. And I just was like, it wasn't like they were smiling all like, I don't know. I just got a weird thing from those two
No, I didn't notice
as
that
Deb was walking down the aisle. Like, are they
because
saying, I don't know. Like, I just wonder what they were saying to each other.
it didn't look good, right?
No, I don't know. They just had like a weird look on their face, like they were kind of like gossiping. It was like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they were trying to still talk about Jake and Peyton. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
But it
either.
was weird because it was as Deb was walking down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And because we didn't hear, so I don't know. It could have been they were still gabbing about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, about Andy, it's a good thing. Hopefully he wasn't in the church when Karen walked down the aisle.
Right.
Because I feel like that relationship would have been done and over with.
Mm-hmm.
But also, yeah, it was weird because then he just like, because it just seemed like the longest time. And then yeah, she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And after the news broke out, Dan is like giving a stare down at Keith while still smiling that smile.
I know. He had the biggest like grin on.
Mm-hmm. And then Keith asks Lucas for his keys. Now, did Lucas try to like save Keith by telling him not to go because he didn't give him his keys at first? Like
Well,
trying to
yeah,
stop him from going after Jules.
he didn't want him to go, but also nobody's telling him why.
Yeah. So I don't know why Lucas was trying to like talk him out of it, but not saying, why.
Why? He
Yeah.
just said no. And it's like,
Yeah.
but explain yourself. No, why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would be like, what do you mean no? Give me your keys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is what he basically was doing.
Yeah.
Because nobody is telling the poor guy.
Right.
He just got embarrassed at his wedding. You all know. And aren't saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. So when he finally does get Lucas's keys, Karen goes after him first, and then Lucas, and then Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside, Keith takes off in the car before anyone can stop him.
Well, then that scene, then Lucas is the first one that gets to him, I guess, because Karen's running in heels.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But then they couldn't stop him.
Mm-hmm.
Duh.
Right. And then Dan walks out now. Lucas goes
Dan
off on
is
him.
the happiest person on the
Mm-hmm.
planet.
Yeah, like it's Christmas for him. Mm-hmm.
And his birthday all at once. It's all coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just won the lottery.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dan says he didn't do anything. He promises he wouldn't jeopardize his relationship with Lucas again.
That's what was funny, because Lucas just comes at him like, you did this. And he's all like, I didn't do anything. And then Karen, when she says, I told her.
Yeah, and then Lucas and Dan like turn their heads like, what?
Well, you know what was funny was I was watching Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And because before, when I watched, I probably was looking at Lucas because it was his mom. But this time I was watching Dan, and Dan, like his eyes was, I think, was saying it before his mouth was, like before his reaction on his mouth, because his eyes were like, nice work, like good job.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, like, but then he said, like, it's on you. And I'm like, okay, Dan, it's still on you.
Right.
Whatever. You're still the one that started this whole thing.
Yeah. And then he called her Cupid, but I don't know. Like technically, I guess he would be Cupid because he put them together, and Karen be the opposite, like an anti-Cupid for breaking them up. But yeah. And then Lucas pulls out his speech and throws in the garbage, and then we see the part where Brooke mentioned of the speech because it's lying on top of a trash pile, and then Lucas is basically narrating his speech through the rest of the episode. So then we see Nathan out in the woods near the beach, where he got married to Haley. He's burning things. He takes out the
burning the
Polaroid
wedding wall.
Yeah. It just looked like he was burying multiple things, yeah. And including the wedding wall, yeah.
He burned the wedding wall, and then he was starting to burn the pictures from the night. Well, from the party.
Yeah.
And then Deb walks up. Well, she eventually walks up.
Yeah, because if we go back and forth, we see Keith getting home, calling for Jules. She's not there, but the wedding dress is. And then we see Jules crying in her car somewhere. And then we go to Karen, who is still in the church, as Lucas said. Oh, yeah, Lucas is still narrating. And then Andy sits with her. Karen asks him, what have they done? She says she needs to find Keith.
It's just so weird, but okay.
Yeah.
Like for Andy, like.
Yeah, just, yeah. And then Dan is at the church drinking champagne.
Celebrating.
Tasting the icing of the cake and knocks down the groom topper.
Okay, and then he said, then he goes, one down. And then then it's like
it focuses on Deb.
The focus is on Deb, but then it shoots back to like the bride. And then he's like, and one to go. Ew.
Yeah. And then Dan had after Deb walked out, he laughs and smiles very villain like.
Oh yes, had that stupid smile, like the devil.
Yeah. And then Peyton and Jake are with Jenny as they get back to her house. They ask Jenny if she can say Dada, but she ends up saying Mama while looking forward.
And there's Nikki.
And Jake to see. Yep. Standing in the shadows. And she steps out looking at them. And then we go back to Nathan, who is putting, stove stuff in the fire. And Deb walks up and
I did like when I liked when she told him that she wanted him to be happy because she can't remember the last time she was happy. And then she gave him money to go see Haley and said, go get her. She's your wife.
Yeah.
I love it because she was so against it. But it's like
Mhm.
she's realizing that he was happy then.
Yeah.
And that he stopped burning those freaking pictures.
Right.
Because what have I said? Stop it. One day you will regret it.
Mhm.
So I did like that he burned some, but not all of them.
Right. Yeah.
As
I
in
guess
he can hold on in 20 years, he can hold on to those pictures, I guess.
yeah, so it makes you think there must have been like hundreds of them that he was throwing like one by one until Depp got there.
Yeah. Luckily, he didn't just
Mhm.
go throw
Yeah,
them
the
all.
whole thing, yeah. And then the last scene, we see Lucas sit down at the table in the church with Brooke, and she can, he can tell that she's upset, and that's what she says. She just found out that her dad got the job after all,
And it's in
and he's
California.
yeah, and they're moving just next week, and she doesn't
But
want
she
to go.
doesn't want to go, yeah. But then he
Yeah.
said, what are we going to do?
Yeah, now what am I gonna do? What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it wasn't like, what are you going to do, honey? It
Yeah,
was, what are we going to do about
I
this?
mean, yeah, what is she gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, what
that was
am I gonna do?
weird.
Yeah, and
Then,
then
but then
he,
he held her and she was
yeah,
crying.
yeah, of course, another thing that Felix wouldn't like, but yeah,
That'd have been funny if Felix walked in.
right.
Well, she's not crying on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, oh my God, but this episode, it was definitely good from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your high and low?
Um, Not much happened that was really good. Except for I guess Payne and Jake getting together. That's the only thing that really happened that was good in this episode. And then the low was them finding out that Jules had left the altar. And yours?
The high, I enjoyed Lucas and Brooke.
Yeah, that was nice.
They were like the exciting part of the episode, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was just downer to me.
Right.
And then the low for me though was definitely everybody knowing who knew and was still gonna let Keith go through with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now what, like, Karen knew, right? Why couldn't she and Andy have went to Lucas and said, let's figure this out of how to tell Keith and stop this?
Right.
Like,
Instead of
have more
confronting Jules on their
people
own.
in it that knew
Mhm.
and could have went to him instead of letting, like, she knows,
Mm-hmm.
but I just didn't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, and then she would have known that Lucas knows as well. Yeah.
Well, she knew,
And
yeah, well, she knew that, and they were still standing there, and she
yeah.
knows her son knows, but no one's gonna say something.
Yeah, and Lucas knew like the full story that she didn't know yet until she went to talk to Jules. So
Right. But then even
Mhm.
after that, though, she could have then went to Lucas
Mhm.
and said, let's make a plan to get him out of this.
Yeah.
But again, they all just stood there letting this all go down. And even when he found out she was gone,
Mhm.
nobody said anything.
Right. And then Hillary pointed this out too. Like, even if Jules was going to go through with the wedding, like, how could she even do it with her fake name?
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't make the marriage legal then. So
Maybe she had the papers and never showed him.
maybe, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if how that would have worked out. But yeah. And then rating?
I would rate this a 9.5.
Mm.
Story-wise,
Yeah.
9.5. I thought it was good beginning to end. It kept you entertained.
Yeah.
I didn't like the whole thing, but
Mhm.
I was shocked at what part of the season, because I knew it was in season 2, obviously, the whole Jules thing, but I was actually surprised it was episode 16 because we have 23 episodes.
Mhm.
So I was surprised that it was so short. Like, I don't know why, but I remember their storyline. I felt like it was a whole season,
Right. Yeah.
not like halfway through it
Mhm.
stopped
Yeah.
where she like went away.
Mhm. Yeah. So I would rate this a 9 because yeah, a lot happened entertaining wise. Yeah.
Mm. And then I'll go with my best and worst first. My best was Lucas because he was there for everyone. He confronted Deb. He was there for Keith. He was there for Nathan. Stood up to
Brooke.
Dan. Was there for Brooke. Like, he was just there for everybody, and I liked him in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then the worst was Dan. You know, he started this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he still was smirking. And then he was perverted with Brooke.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, mine are actually the same. It was yeah. Definitely Lucas Best. Worst Dan, yeah.
Yep. I mean, I didn't like the old Nathan drinking, but he's only only messing with his own life. So where Dan is messing with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like that they all didn't know, but I can't put them all as the worst, right? Because it comes down to one person that did it.
Yeah.
Because I could say Jules, but she didn't go through with it. So she was helping Keith, right? Just didn't tell. Oh, one thing I wanted to say that I was upset with Jules about. Like, I was glad that she didn't go through with it, but when we saw her in the car, I was mad at her because I was mad that she was crying, but I was also mad that she had the wedding ring on.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too.
I was like, bitch, I'm going to say it. Bitch, you did not give him back the ring. Right,
but left the dress, yeah.
Like, you left the dress, but you did. Keith paid for that ring. He has no money. You know that. You know his whole story. You say you love him. If you love him so much, leave the ring. Because it's all a scam. You know it's a scam. Why didn't you leave the ring?
Right.
I was so mad when I saw that. I was like, you really don't love him then. Because if you did, you would have left the ring.
Yeah, she probably kept the ring so she could pawn it for money to get away, start somewhere
But you
new,
just hurt him.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that's the only reason I can think of why she kept it. Yeah.
But I was so mad. I'm like, you hurt him. You did this whole thing. You were hired. You did this whole thing. You say you fell in love with him. Then why wouldn't you, because you know you just hurt him so bad in front of everyone, why wouldn't you have left the ring so he can get his money back? Or at least some of the money back.
Right.
I was so mad at that. She was close to the second worst.
Yeah. But it would have been sad too if we had to see Keith pawn, another ring that he, didn't work out for him.
But I didn't like that that she didn't let him.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
That was his money. So annoying. Like, you left the dress, but didn't Dan pay for the dress?
Yeah, so I don't know why she left it.
So Dan, great. Yeah, Dan gets the money back.
Yeah, it should have been the opposite. Like, take the dress, leave the ring. Yeah.
Yeah. Dan paid for this. I'll take this, but Keith can have his ring back.
Yeah.
So
or if she had,
annoying.
if she kept that necklace, then that would have been something she could have pawned it off too. So
anything. It was like she was giving all Dan his stuff back, but not Keith.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then what's next episode?
Episode 17, Something I Can Never Have.
Interesting. All right. Thanks for listening.
Yep. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Duo Chat. If you want to chime in with your opinion about the episode and the show we discussed, you can email us at duochatpodcast@gmail.com. And to keep up with updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Duo Chat Podcast. And give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it.